What's going on, guys? It's Mike for SimRacing604, and today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the sequel to Assetto Corsa. For those who didn't catch wind of this story, a financial report between Kunos and their parent company Digital Bros included notes about not only a mobile version of Assetto Corsa coming later this year, but also a sequel to Assetto Corsa due in 2024. So already a lot of speculation is floating around the sim community about what this title might look like, so I thought I would give my 2 cents, and I hope it goes without saying, but this is pure speculation on my part. I haven't spoken to anyone from the Kunos team about this topic, but even if I did, I doubt they would be willing or able to talk about it, and it's also worth noting that the 2024 launch date target could easily bleed into 2025 based on how things often go with software releases, so it's far too early to have fully formed takes. Please just treat this as a fun thought exercise and feel free to share your own thoughts below in the comments. So a big question to be answered first and foremost is mods or no mods. The first installment of Assetto Corsa has grown to become an almost endless playground of a driving sim. Its mods allow you to drive almost any car and track from any era. The sales figures are ridiculous, and even 7 years after release, this sim is still in an upward trajectory for users. That fact is hard to comprehend, especially considering Kunos has released another title since. And speaking of that other title, which most of you know is Assetto Corsa Competizione, Kunos followed up that mod monster that was Assetto Corsa 1 with a title that couldn't be modded. Competizione was laser focused on the GT3 and GT4 race series and won the hearts of real motorsports like AC1 did with sim racing fans. So much so, in fact, that the real world SRO series allows racers to score championship points based on Assetto Corsa Competizione performance at certain events. So the question of mods or no mods, in my mind, comes down to whether Kunos will aim to appease the racing community by providing a title structured similar to ACC, or catered toward the sim racing community and the existing AC1 fan base more by allowing mods. There does exist the possibility that they could do both. If they had a custom game engine like the first AC that allows mods but then added base content that was endorsed by real drivers, teams, and leagues, that would be doable, but let's not get too granular here. Personally, and I think this may surprise some people given that this channel was built around mods, but I'd be content with another title that did not support mods. I say this for 2 reasons. First, you could make the argument that Assetto Corsa 1 with the custom shaders patch, Sol, content manager, and the hundreds of car and track mods that we could probably classify as must-have is Assetto Corsa 2. Modders have effectively broke down every barrier of the first title and made significant improvements on all fronts, so would a sequel really be that much different? Granted, Kunos' package would be much cleaner than disparate mods, but the changes would generally be the same as what we have now. And I'll add a sub-point here: could Kunos actually do better? Or would their efforts to make Assetto Corsa 2 a true sequel to Assetto Corsa 1 just be seen as a contest between who did it better, Kunos or the modding community? And my number 2 point for not having a sequel support mods is the question of whether modders would want to learn a new system. Maybe they would, but who knows? Presumably a moddable Assetto Corsa 2 would run on at least a slightly different engine than Assetto Corsa 1. How different is anyone's guess, but assuming it's different, the modding teams that we assume would continue to generate mod content over the next few years would have to adapt their efforts to a new system, and it begs the question of whether they would want to bother. Maybe it would be a minor difference, or maybe it would be significant. So the mod scene could be slow to adopt the new title, and if that adoption is too slow, it may lead to a sentiment of people thinking the mod scene in AC1 is good enough. And what about content in the sequel? Even ignoring mods, the first Assetto Corsa had a solid amount of cars spanning many classes. To date, Competizione only has 2 car classes. You could certainly argue that ACC was too limited on car selection, or you could argue that Kunos limiting their focus resulted in the best version of the most popular sim racing car class. Personally, I'd like to see the ACC approach again. My ideal would be Kunos reusing as many GT3, GT4, and track assets as are still relevant for the next title, and adding spec series like IndyCar and Formula 3 that would really only require one set of physics and sounds, but with unique liveries and teams based on the most recent seasons. Follow that up with race series like Supercars or whatever is happening in WEC in 2024, ideally as base content, but perhaps as DLC packs, and I'll be a happy guy. So in other words, expand the focus beyond just GT cars, but not too far. Bonus points if Kunos can deliver a handful of current hypercars to check around for fun as well. In terms of tracks, do the ACC thing again. Make the track selection based on the race series on offer. Yes, there's countless brilliant track mods for Assetto Corsa that I race on frequently that don't really fit into any race series, but honestly the selection in ACC is enough for me because we only have 2 car series to race them on. In fact, I so rarely touch Paul Ricard and Zolder that I could arguably do with slightly less. Give us the tracks like Spa, Monza, Nürburgring, those essential sim tracks, and then add 20 or so grade 1 and grade 2 tracks and I'll be happy. Sure, there's dozens more tracks that I could argue for in terms of quality of racing, but there's some balance of useful content versus filler content that needs to be reached. 4 things that you'd also normally talk about when discussing the quality of a sim title would be graphics, sounds, car physics, and force feedback, but there's really no point for me to bring that up now. I hope all 4 of these elements will be well executed, and suffice it to say that Kunos will work hard to ensure they are. Ideally, VR would be implemented in the next Kunos title, better versus ACC, but who knows what state VR will even be in 3 years from now. And assuming it doesn't bog down the game too much, a tire model closer in detail to R-Factor 2 would definitely be on my wish list. According to the Lindy effect, we can expect iRacing to still be the king of online racing in 3 years, and whether Kunos will challenge for that throne remains to be seen. Personally, I think refining the online experience currently on offer in ACC is the way to go. There's some known bugs and workarounds that most communities have learned to live with in ACC, and if Kunos notes those and works to fix them, it would continue to be a popular online sim even if it doesn't play in the same space as iRacing. 2 final wish list points for me before I wrap this up. 1, I hope Kunos gives us a proper career mode. There was an attempt in ACC, but it never reached the levels it could or should have reached. Sim racing titles in general seem to conflate a series of predetermined single-player races with a career mode. Let us grow and unlock more things as we progress as drivers, and you got yourself a career mode. And lastly, please make cross-platform online play a thing. As much as the sim racing community loves to turn up their noses to console people at times, the fact is that the number of console users worldwide is huge. Almost every sim is still struggling to get its online community numbers up, so let's welcome the console players. I'd have to believe that the new gen of consoles is powerful enough to run a good port of anything Kunos would aim to bring to PC, so let's do it. So to close, my ideal project from Kunos would be an expanded and refined Assetto Corsa Competizione rather than an updated Assetto Corsa. But let's be honest, whatever way they decide to go is gonna rock. Let me know in the comments what you want to see or what you think you'll see from the next Kunos title, and thank you for watching.